Sorry, I only got a pint to get me 2 quid.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me at the back?
Yes, thanks.
Can you hear me at the bar? 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, right? Just a quick sound check, just to make sure everything's going through all right. You can hear it all right, it's very clear. Somebody said no. Is it all right? Good, excellent. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here with us at McMenamin's at London Park. It's very, very good to see you. We'd also like to say a big hello to the worldwide audience this evening on the internet, on YouTube. So if you're on the YouTube channel, lots and lots of people will be out there, and they're indeed sending their questions in to us. So we're getting them from all over the place. So that's really nice. I'm going to introduce you to the members this evening. We'd like to welcome directors John Fenty and Philip Day, obviously manager Marcus Bignott and assistant Mickey Moore, and please welcome the Mariners Trust Chairman Terry Rudrun, Secretary Hannah Dawson, and the Supporters Liaison Officer Christine Green. Christine will be fielding all these live questions that are coming through the official website and the YouTube channel, so you can email Christine at supporters@gtfc.co.uk. So, here we are, and we're off. We'll go straight to John, if that's all right, John. First question, how are you getting on with Marcus and Mickey? What was their brief when they came in, and how do you think they're doing?
Okay, good evening everybody. Great to see so many in the audience, and also no doubt will be many at home. So hope you all get it, and thank you for joining us. So the brief, and Marcus, how we're getting on. Maybe you can ask Marcus how we're getting on. I think house on fire, I would argue. Let Marcus come in on that in a little bit. Naturally, it's a team we're talking about. You've got Mickey to the left of Philip, and naturally Marcus. It's a team. They come as a pair. They certainly work together very, very well, and I think they've fitted in with the board and the board's aspirations well. Obviously, we had a little bit of a chop round in January in the window. The effort and objective there was to prepare for next year, actually, next season. So we've not seen everybody out in force, but in truth, it is a preparation for next season, which I'm sure Marcus will come in on. So other than that, I think I've answered your questions.
Thank you very much, yeah, that's super. Marcus, it's your first fans forum with us this evening. Thank you for being here, it's great to see you. How are you doing? How are you getting on? How are you settling in? And how's things generally?
Very good. Apologies, I would have been a little bit earlier, but the staff had the hunger royal. The towels weren't ready, so I couldn't shower in time, so we just ran out of towels, so I was just waiting for that. But in general, I'm loving life. And probably this week, obviously the visit down to the docks on Tuesday, and then to the Youngs, the factory, to bring the team and players. I think players they're not in touch with its supporters, and I'm talking football in general. I certainly don't want that to be at this football club and its players. So to get that togetherness, which we want to create, we've certainly got it. Boardroom, staff, football staff, ground staff, and with the supporters, like I said, it's going to take time, but we want to engage in the community, in the borough, and you know, Tuesday was a real good eye-opener for the players, because you know, half of them, let's be honest, Don Vos has probably never seen a fish in his life.
I was going to say, how many of them see 7 o'clock in the morning?
Exactly. Well, yeah. I mean, some of them had to get up, and it was a super morning. And like I said, it was interesting because of trade and why we done it. You know, players become unaware. You know, there's been a strike in Iceland, which has impacted on this town massively in terms of the fishing trade. But those who it's impact on, they still come on Saturday. Season ticket holders paying hard-earned money when it's hard at home, and to rub shoulders, conversations with those supporters. For me, it was a defining day in terms of the way we want to move forward with this football club.
Have you got other things planned in the community, taking the players into the community, different sort of aspects of different jobs or different parts of the community?
Yeah, we went to Young's as well, who are the club's main sponsors, and we went to the factory, and we've seen how they all work there as well. And it was just a reminder how lucky we are as footballers, you know. And I hate a footballer who moans, can't stand it, because it's the best job in the world. And they're so lucky and fortunate. So, again, for me it was great because you can put in a few rules and reminders to the footballers, never moan. You're done by 2 o'clock. I heard we do double sessions, we haven't even done a double session yet. So, wait till they hear that news next season. And then I'll just remind them the shifts they do. Yeah? There you go. It all has a plan.
Fantastic. Talking of the supporters, can you hand the mic over to Hannah, please? I'd like to ask Hannah, how's it going with the marriage from the Mariners Trust perspective? How can the fans get involved with the Mariners Trust? And can you tell us about your election to the Supporters Direct England and Wales Council? And what does that mean?
So it's going really well with the Mariners Trust at the minute. We've just implemented a new membership system which should hopefully make it easier for everyone to join up and support us. So that's live on our website. Anyone who needs to renew, you can renew via PayPal through a standing order type thing without filling in a piece of paper. So that's something great that we've put in recently. Christine also has been working a lot on the junior side of things. So what we've done is different events at various games. We've had a junior press conference as well. And that was something that we weren't really doing much of in past years. What to expect in the future? Well, we've got a big Play on the Pitch day coming up. We've got Broadley FC come in to play and raise money for Bloodwise. And we've also got the Operation Promotion team. Operation Promotion team playing Lloyd Griffiths' Team of Celebs, and then 2 Mariners Trust games as well. So yeah, that's something coming up in May. And then in summer we're going to organise another open day as well. So that's something to look forward to. What was the other question, sorry?
It's just tell us about your election to the Supporters Direct England and Wales Council. Really, that was what it was all about, yeah?
So I asked for nominations, A, from our board and also from the Iron Trust, which might get a few boos from the crowd, but they were happy to nominate me to be elected for the Supporters Direct Council. I was one of the sort of first place people, so I won a seat for 3 years. And what I hope to do is promote, firstly, females in football, but also promote the work of the Trust and the club here at Grimsby, and learn from other trusts about what more we can do to help the supporters. So the first meeting's in May, and I'm really excited to get involved with it.
Yeah, and how many clubs have got people involved in that? Are there many, or?
There's 12 seats. I think Exeter are involved, Coventry. I can't think of the other clubs off the top of my head, but it's far and wide.
It's countrywide, yeah.
Yeah, and meetings are down in London, so
yeah,
bringing us all together nicely.
Very nice, yeah, excellent. So, have you got any questions yet from the internet? Do we know?
We have a few.
Right, do you want to? Yeah, go on.
Okay, so this one is for John. Other clubs are starting to prepare the season ticket sales in advance. When are we looking to have our season tickets prices announced and on sale?
Thank you for that. There are times when it's wise to attempt to sell season tickets early, and other times when it's best left alone. When it's been a difficult season, we've chosen to leave it for a while, because what we didn't want to be doing is circulating all the packs when people are still fairly angry when things haven't gone as well as we wanted. So that's really the reason why we would ordinarily start to send the packs out late. When things have gone well, obviously we're happy to ride on the back of that and get them out earlier. I think if things finish off reasonably well this season and the opportunity is right, then we would send them out earlier than normal. So, you know, we look at it like that really. You know, I suppose we could easily send them out early and it become a damp squib if the mentality's not right. So it's about looking for the opportunity, and that's what we try to do to unlock the most support we can.
Very good, thank you. That's excellent, thank you. Yeah. I've just literally been handed a couple of questions. I hope you don't mind me asking this one, John. It's a general question. It's about the stadium, new stadium. Will Grimsby Town own the new stadium, is the question.
Okay, right, this is an interesting one. Would you mind if I just take you through a little bit of chronology, because it will help, and maybe it'll promote some more questions, and we're happy to answer questions. We're delighted the Cabinet made a decision last Thursday. That was to novate an option to Extreme, who are the intended developers. Extreme come particularly with a leisure background. They're not so much developers, but at the end of the day, they're putting the money where the mouth is. They believe they can deliver this scheme, and they're certainly working things up as we speak. I've been on the telephone today quite a lot with one of the leads on the from the developer, from Extreme, and things are working very, very well. Unfortunately, that decision that the Cabinet made last week has been called in today. It had 5 working days to pass for it not to be called in. Now, what does that mean? It means the council decision will be brought into question, and that will be debated, and arising out of that, and that will be at the Regeneration Committee, I would imagine on the 21st of this month, so we haven't got too long to wait. That decision that the Cabinet made will be debated, and I imagine and believe there'll be a recommendation to proceed, carry on. So I think we're in a good spot in that regard. Obviously, carry on means preparing the option agreement and working up the detail between the council and the developer. And of course, the football club comes into that, but the option agreement is particularly with the developer. Beyond that, obviously, we've got to have a side agreement with the developer, which will map out the terms related to the community stadium and all sorts of other bits and pieces. The stadium will be on leased land. Well, let me just go back one step further. The site now is going to be purchased. It's not as was before, where it was thought the council was going to roll it over and actually become the landlord with regard to the stadium footprint. It's changed. The whole site now will be purchased by Extreme as part of the overall development. That's at approximately 2-3 times the book value that the council had it in the books. So that's good for the taxpayer, and of course it takes away the argument that you know, it's a handout. It isn't a handout. It's going to be a difficult job to deliver this. So we move on now in the knowledge that the site's going to be purchased at a reasonable value to the taxpayer. Then we're going to have an agreement with Extreme, which will give us 999 years lease, which is as good as ownership in anyone's language, and the community stadium will be owned by the football club. How that will be paid for is through an enabling development. Now, there may or may not be a shortfall, but at this moment in time, the aim and objective is to have the community stadium fully paid for through an enabling development, which will consist of social housing, other types of housing. The objective is to give people an opportunity to get on the housing ladder. There's some really interesting stuff going on. The developer genuinely believes that they can bring A, the finance, B, the interested parties, and C, deliver houses that can suit all levels. This scheme probably needs something in the order of 1,500 houses. They probably won't all be at Peaks Parkway. There's a whole host of work to be done, but we are working with the council to deliver homes on brownfield sites. So it could be a win for the council, a win for the football club, and a win for people wanting to get on the housing ladder. So there's a real opportunity with a scheme like this to do a whole host of good and ultimately leave a lasting legacy for many, many generations into the future. So I think that probably answers your question. The objective is to end up with a stadium that hopefully is fully funded.
Thank you. That's quite an in-depth explanation. I think it's very understandable. Thank you. I think Terry wants to have a little word. Thank you.
Yeah, if I could. Good evening. As well as Hannah and Christine, myself, there are several other trust board members out there, including John Wood, who is our representative on the town board. We're extremely pleased with the way that the trust board is going. We've had over the years one or two people coming in and off, but now we've got a settled team working with very good procedures that Hannah and Christine are making sure that we work to. But if I could just pose a question for Marcus. I'm sure that sometime tonight he will say, listen. And I know that he will listen because he's very delighted after the match last Saturday when the referee said he was sorry. But can I ask you, Marcus, what is the latest on Gavin?
Listen. Gavin Gunning, complex character. The thump on his head has done, well, you kind of think, knocked some sense into him. Gavin, if you ring him, he won't pick up the phone. But if you text him straight away, he'll text you straight back. So you'll ring, he won't pick up, and then he'll reply to you with a text. That's Gavin Gunning. So, to tell you how Gavin Gunning is, I haven't been able to speak to him over the phone. It's been via text, and I'm pleased to, well, some would say please, others would go. He's on the mend, but in all seriousness, there's a 2-week protocol now in terms of concussion. I mean, he was completely knocked out on Saturday and came around some time after the game. So, of course, it was worrying at the time. And like you said, the referee did say sorry and apologised. Obviously, it doesn't help our cause at the time, but I'm a manager who never blame refs, or it's a very hard job, referees, and hopefully, certainly the club is held in high esteem with the FA and its officials, and I want to manage that way as well with regards to officials. So you'll all have your view on it, of what should have happened. It never happened, and unfortunate for us, we were on the wrong end of a decision.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because from my position, which is right next to that in the PA box there, I didn't actually see Gavin go down until after the ball had gone into the net. Did the referee see this? Did he see him go down? Do we know, or did he say anything?
Well, obviously, you've never seen him go down, but I'm no referee. But when that ball goes into the box and there's a load of bodies around it, you are looking for a foul, you are looking for any incident around that ball. So we should have seen it. Yeah. His view wasn't obscured at all, so he should have saw it, and that's why he apologised. And then you've got that dilemma, haven't you? There was one or two players who certainly stopped, and certainly Zach Mills was one of them. Obviously, there's a concern of a human being, not just a fellow teammate, on the floor. Others have said, do you blame the Wickham lads? The Wickham players are probably a bit like you, probably never seen him go down. But certainly, incidences like that, you'd like to think the referee can spot that. So, it was just one of those.
That's great, yeah. We're going to open it up to the floor. So, have we got a volunteer to ask the first question of the panel this evening? I'll come round with the microphone if that's all right. Excuse me. Can I just come down? Thank you. Do you want to say your question?
Yeah, it's to you, Marcus. Good evening. Why are we so inconsistent, and what do you think you've gone overboard with signing non-league players, which I'm not knocking because they're hungry, but don't we need a mix in players?
In an ideal world, yes. In an ideal world, you get proven who you can sign, who have been proven at this level. I don't think we're in that market, if I'm being honest, at this moment in time. If you take, for example, we lose Omar Bogle to replace Omar with a proven goal scorer at this level, we're not in that market, unfortunately. One would either be a transfer fee, which that club would put on a player's head who's a proven goal scorer, and if it's a free, his wages, well, you can imagine what a proven goal scorer on a free, the wages he would command. So in a situation like that, we have to unearth, I mean, you've called it non-league, unearth, but a reminder, Omar came from non-league.
Yeah, I'm
so
not
they are
temperamental on that.
No,
They're hungry.
yeah, it's just situation. So in that situation, yes, in that situation, I would say we couldn't go and get that mix in terms of the forward area. In other areas, of course, you know, we believe Chris Clements, you know, he's played 100 and so games at this level. So we believe he's proven at this level, but he's still young and there's still a lot more potential from him. So I do agree, it's situations. A Gav Gunning, although he's not proven at this level, we believe he's a different type of, say, a non-league tag. We believe he's higher than this level if he can get a consistent run in his position. So it's different scenarios. In an ideal world, yes, we'd love to get that mix of non-league, proven, certainly. And it's not for the want of not looking or trying, but sometimes the remit is it doesn't allow you.
Thank you.
And the inconsistency.
Yeah, you've obviously mentioned Omar there. How difficult was it for you coming into a new club, having done the deal with Grimsby Town from Solihull Moors to get Marcus here, to get Omar here. Then, of course, you come in, and within weeks, he's moving on somewhere else. How did you, as a manager and as a person, sort of get through that sort of situation?
I think first and foremost, you know, I always put the player first, so it was Omar's. You know, you've got to understand, and I've never been in this position, so I have moved on a transfer deadline, but Omar's moving on a transfer deadline day, or supposedly. Honestly, up until the last day, he wasn't going anywhere. We had one club coming for Omar in the window, which was probably well documented, and we had 3 or 4 offers which wouldn't even come to a table for negotiations or a discussion. You cannot, as a player, be not drawn to the social media, the interest, and you know, it was all on Twitter, Newcastle, and all these clubs, and it was difficult for Omar's head not to be turned. And in the beginning, the first couple of weeks, I honestly believed his head wasn't turned. As it drew near to the window, closing, I believe his head got turned. And it did affect him. It affected his form and everything. And you've got to understand, a player who's been told you possibly could sign a 3-4 year contract on XYZ, that contract could be worth 7 figures, £1 million contract. And I know where Omar's come from. I know how much important his family means to him. I know how much I paid him on his first contract at Solihull. I know how much we were paying him when he left. I know the deal because we'd done the deal with John to Grimsby, so I And honestly, he was resigned to not going, but he had gone mentally, and we left Cheapside at 2 o'clock, transfer deadline day. Both left together, and we honestly believed we were coming to see each other back on Thursday. And then we got the call late Thursday evening, I believe it was, 5 o'clock. And we didn't, was it just testing the water offer? We made a few inquiries, and it led to believe it was going to be a serious offer. Well, that move only transpired, there was 3 transfer moves prior to that to enable Wigan to come in at the end, so it wasn't Wigan waiting last minute and then we'll go for Omar. There was actually 3 transfers before that, club to club. Wigan, who was the other club? Norwich and Brentford, was it involved? There's about 3 clubs anyway involved before, so we were that close to keeping Omar. But again, you'd say, well, why don't we keep him? Why didn't we work harder to keep him? Well, if we've just turned down 7 figures, Omar's coming back, what does Omar want to be paid? He wants to be paid. If you've turned down 7 figures, and certainly he wasn't on a wage of 7 figures, certainly not. So what type of player, I already told you he'd mentally gone, now coming back, so we didn't want to, and honestly, we would have loved to have kept Omar, because he's the best striker in this league. You can't replace him, as I spoke earlier. So, but believe you me, how it happened was literally, and I didn't, you know, it was lastminute.com.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. You've got a question, haven't you? Excuse me.
Yeah, it's a question to Marcus, really. When you've got all your players available, what is your preferred formation? It's just lately we've looked a little bit unbalanced at times.
My preferred system is trying to find a balance of getting your best players out on that pitch and finding a system what best suits them. Have I had my best players available to play the system? Question mark on that. So really, what I believe is there's only 3 ways to attack. Play through, play over or down the sides. God hasn't invented any other way to play football. I'm still searching, but he hasn't. So a team who plays through are Barcelona. A team who plays down the sides, the good old days, Man United, your Giggsies, your Beckhams down the sides, getting crosses into the box. A team who plays over, a bit more direct, your Stokes, your West Broms come to mind. I'd love to play all 3. I'd love to have the team and the group who are able to play all 3. So I like to play with width. I like to have that option of playing over as well. And I like to have that option of playing through. Most teams play with 3 in the middle, so I'm not going to give you the system away, but most teams play 3 in the middle. So if you want to play through, you've got to dominate. So unless you've got the lad from Leicester, who went to Chelsea, I haven't seen 2 midfielders who can go up against a 3 and outperform them, other than, what's his name? Kante. We inquired about him. So generally we're going to have to go with 3 in there. To go over, I honestly don't believe we have got in the group a number 9 who can play on his own. I think since Omar went, I honestly don't think we've got within the group someone to play on their own up top. So we have to play with 2. That's my opinion. I like 2 anyway. Good old-fashioned big man, little man. I do like 2. And it enables you to go over and play combinations. And I like width. Unfortunately, we haven't got that natural width on the left. But the game's evolving now. Most wingers now come in field and play in field, and it's overlapping and you know, eroding full-backs, wing-backs. So the game's evolving, but I want to get my best 11, what gives you all those elements, but also, I was going to swear there, it's a league of restarts as well. You need some big boys, because that ball comes into your box. It's not like Premiership football, it's not the beautiful game, Barcelona, where there's a deep free kick in their half, they're just going to put their hand on and play. Deep free kick in the half, Wickham, keeper comes up, it's going in your box. So you need some physicality as well, because you need to adapt to, you know, you need those markers in there. So I love to find that balance and that search, and I think we were getting it. which showed we're 3 points away from getting 10 points from 5 games in an important part of the season where everybody is fighting for their lives, whether it's for promotion or relegation. And like I said, we were probably encouraged on Saturday. Disappointed, obviously, with the result, but you saw some encouraging signs. I hope.
Have we got another question from the floor? Yes. Excuse me.
Hi, my question is to the Trust. I sit in the lowers, and a lot of my colleagues sit in the lowers and the uppers, and we've had an incident the other week in our bar, purely because one of the fire doors had been locked. Somebody had made that decision, and there was an incident that some guys wanted to rush out, the doors were locked, and they kicked the door in. In all the years I've watched Grimsby Town, there's never been an incident. Now our bar's closed apart from half-time. Is that going to be a permanent thing? Are all the other bars closed at half-time, or is it just ours? Sorry, only open at half-time. Where it used to be open all the time, so if it was pouring with rain in the lower, you had the opportunity to sneak in and watch the match on the TVs and things like that. That's all been taken away from us by one incident by some stupid guys. Is that going to continue?
I can answer that one. No, it won't continue for long. It will continue probably for the rest of this season. We are operating the bars, but what we have to do is to take notice of the stadium manager. If he makes a decision based on safety grounds, then we have to go along with that. Whether the decision was right or wrong is debatable, but at the end of the day, the decision was made and we have to go along with that. So it will probably happen for the rest of this season, but then it will revert hopefully next season to opening all of the time.
I mean, I know there's an issue, some of the guys have been going out and they've got beer with them, and I know that's illegal. But surely, if it does reopen after the break in the summer, perhaps the answer is to put a couple of stewards on that door, because to lock a fire door for me is a ridiculous decision.
Yeah, I can accept that, but the thing is, the number of people who were in the bar at the time, there were 2 other fire exits there. That was the argument of the stadium manager, and I would have to go along with that because as the previous stadium manager, I would probably have made exactly the same decision. But there were 2 other fire doors open. I can accept what you're saying about a fire door, but there were 2 other fire doors or 2 other fire exits that could be used.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Yeah, sure.
Right, this is to Terry. Yeah. I'm also a member of that bar. I feel as though we're being discriminated against. You're saying that 2 fire exits were open, 1 was locked. That is against the rules. That could close this ground down. Yeah, if it was reported to the officials that that fire door was locked. At this moment in time, I go in that bar on an home game, and now we're not allowed to watch Sky TV, we can't watch Grimsby Town play, we're being totally punished, and we have done nothing whatsoever wrong in that bar. Whether the stadium manager is right or wrong, which I think is wrong, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in that bar who feel that this is a bad decision and you are discriminating against true Grimsby Town fans.
Yeah, I can understand that, but as far as the stadium manager is concerned, he is overseen by the safety advisory group, where people from the fire authorities, from the police and from the local council sit on that safety advisory group, and they do give him advice on what he should or what he can and can't do.
So you're telling me then that everybody else is happy that this fire door was locked, and that's quite okay because the stadium manager says so. That is disgusting, actually.
I'm not saying that it's okay. I'm saying that that's what happened. And we have to abide by the stadium manager's decision. He's totally responsible for everything that happens inside this ground in terms of public safety.
I appreciate his position, which is a very demanding position. But, you know, at this moment in time, through one incident in that bar, which was not very nice, the whole of the people, the whole of the fans, I will say fans because they are fans that go in that bar, we cannot even have Sky TV on. We cannot even have the game on at half time. We are totally being penalised now.
Hi there, can I just come in on this, please? I mean, nobody wants to see you penalised or dumbed down. I believe there's a bit more history than one episode with this door. Number one, the fire door, A, shouldn't be locked, but it should be closed. So I don't know why this door's in use, but it's a fire door. It's not there for...
It's the entrance from the lower into the bar. It's the entrance from the lower Smiths into the bar, is that door.
Okay. Look, I'm going to look into this. I'll have a word with Nick and see what's gone on and see where the rhyme and reason is behind this. But if it is a fire door, it should have a glass bolt on it if it is locked, so that the glass bolt can be broken. We have the same arrangement up here. The idea is for a door of that nature to not be a thoroughfare. But let me look into this. I'll talk to Nick, find out what's gone on, and see if we can make some sense of it. But I remember Nick coming to me 2 or 3 times and saying that there'd been issues with this door, particularly at half time. So you know, I'm not going to defend him. Of course, I've got to support him, but I'd like to look into it. If you can leave it with us, please.
I will do, but all I would say is I've been using that bar for a very long time, and we used to have 2 stewards on that door. Now we have none.
Yeah. Just in terms of stewards, we don't want to steward things for stewards' sake. They cost money, and there's obviously important jobs for stewards to do around the building to make sure that we conform. And you know, Nick has a tall order in terms of making sure you know, we've got a plank on our backside in terms of the directors and that the jobs run properly. So it's not easy. Terry's been in the same position before. Just let me look into it, please. I hear what you're saying. I just want to find out a little bit more background, and no doubt through the trust there'll be an announcement in terms of the direction it may or may not go. At the moment, Terry's working towards next year's status quo. Let's see if we can do something earlier than that. I'll have a look into it. Please leave it with me.
Okay, thanks.
Excellent, thank you.
But just to finish that one off, I was not aware that we were not showing Sky Television at half time. Is that the case?
It is the case, yes. Oh, yeah.
Well, all right, we'll have a look at that one, because there's no logic reason for that to be turned off at half time. So I will chase that one up. Okay, if I could just alter it a little bit, put it back to John, a question on the stadium. John, will Grimsby Town or Extreme Leisure own the new stadium?
Thank you, Terry. I kind of answered that earlier. In effect, what will happen is Extreme will purchase the site, the council-owned land, from the council. They will then, in turn, for the land, give us a 999-year lease, and we will own the stadium. That's the aim and objective. That stadium is intended to be funded through an enabling development. At this moment in time, we hope there's not going to be a shortfall, so that's the way it's planned. And that funding will come via a leisure enabling development, housing enabling development, and some retail.
Does that include training pitches?
They're not training pitches, they're community pitches. They're to support the trust. We've got a sports and education trust. They hire pitches all over the town, which otherwise would be in use by many other organisations. We're monopolising pitches all over the place, and we would really like to support the aims and objectives of the trust and progress you know, active engagement. So at this moment in time, it's not intended to be training pitches now for the first team.
The 999-year lease will be at a peppercorn rent, so there will be no, in effect, no rent payable. We'll probably hand over 999 peppercorns to extreme at the start to show that we've paid all our rent for the 999 years.
That's lovely, thank you.
So keep the peppercorns coming.
We'd like to invite a gentleman to speak that hasn't spoken yet. He's been sat there very quietly at the end. Mickey, can I? We've got a couple of questions about the youth setup, the reserves and everything. Can you tell us a little bit more about your role? You haven't got anything to say yet. Now's your chance.
I'm quite happy just to sit here and listen. Yeah, in terms of my role, it's obviously to support the manager in terms of all the first team duties, recruitment, looking at developing a relationship with Neil Woods and his team on the youth team that potentially could come up to the first team, come into the reserves. So I'm probably that broker for the manager in terms of that sense, really.
Are there any players on the edge of cracking into that first team or getting into the first team squad on match day or anything like that?
Yeah. Well, when we came in, Neil Woods came in literally 3 or 4 days before us, so it's a new role for him as well, and him getting to know the players and us getting to know him as well. We've got some young pros that are out on loan at the moment that are doing really well. We have them monitored and watched, so they're doing well. We're happy with their progress and how they're doing, and then Neil will then obviously let us know, and we'll watch the youth team as well. So sometimes when you go into a youth team, you've got a youth team manager that's been here for a period of time that can give you more knowledge about the players, but he's only just come in as well, so he's getting to fact find as well.
So it's a whole new team, management and everything, yeah, that's fair enough, yeah. We've actually been given a question that's sort of more my department, and Rob, who's doing all our tech stuff this evening. And it says, it's from Derek, it says, why can't we have the bugle fanfare when the players come out onto the pitch at both the start of the game and at half-time? The bugle, I think you're talking about the fanfare for the common man that we always used to have from the 60s and 70s. We've had that for ages, and then we sort of, one or two people sort of asked if we could change it, and can we have a different this and a different that, and can we... And to be fair, I prefer the fanfare, to be honest. I don't mind, Rob, have we got the fanfare? Yeah. I think we've still got it, so yes, there's no reason why we can't use it. It's just that some people have asked for something different. I don't think, in my time, I don't think we've had a fanfare for the players coming out at half-time.
We used to do when there's enough to do.
Did we? Because it's very difficult for the timing on that.
We certainly had it at Boston and at Gainsborough.
Did they have it at Boston and Gainsborough? Okay. And indeed, from the same gentleman, why doesn't Grimsby Town FC pay to have the drummers at all their home football matches? As having a seat in the pontoon, the drummer boys make a huge difference to the atmosphere and the way the crowd reacts, and I believe they do an excellent job when they are there. Yeah, the word pay was, why doesn't Grimsby Town pay to have their drummers at all football matches? Probably for those of you that don't know, I play the drums. I'm a professional drummer. I've been for 25 years, and I don't do it.
Enlist that man. Look, at the end of the day, this football club does rely on a degree of volunteers from the board. I mean, the trust are doing a sterling job. There's a whole host of goodwill associated with this football club, and for the life of me, I can't understand why a drummer would need paying. I would have thought it was a role.
You should speak to my wife, actually, she'll understand.
I would have thought it was a role, pardon the pun, which somebody would have enjoyed, and you know, the camaraderie and so on that goes along with it, I would have thought would have been...
Yeah, I think that's the case.
Right up somebody's alley.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I think people join in as they come along and want fancy doing it, and drum hands from one person to the next and to the next, and so there's always a drummer there. I think what you're saying is, can we have a drummer regularly?
Yeah, there hasn't been any there for last
yeah.
Well, ultimately, if somebody wants to come forward and do the drum on a regular basis, and I hope they would, because I agree with what you're saying, it brings atmosphere and so on. Maybe we could have a whip round, not financially, but try to find somebody. Because you know what I'm like. With flasks and the lights. Hey, I say, at the end of the day, listen. The most important thing at a football club is how much we can put into the first team. Ultimately, any manager, if you ask him at the beginning of the season, where do you think we'll finish? He'll say, you tell me the budget and I'll tell you where we'll finish. So, from that point of view, it's about pulling together. The trust, just look at what they've achieved in the last few years. They've really got their act together, doing a terrific job. As I say, the board of directors are all volunteers. There's no end of people. Kevin, Rob are volunteers. In the past, when we were in the Championship, a lot of these roles were paid for. Even there was an odd director that got paid. And that's happened over the years past. That's not the case. I mean, everything we try to do is aimed at supporting the manager. So, we do appreciate what everybody's doing, and long may that continue. And thank you for all of that support.
Thank you. Any more from the floor? Have we got another question from the floor? Yes, excuse me.
Marcus, what do you say in your huddle at the end of every game?
I'm not a believer after games speaking for ages because it's an emotion, it's a result, and you're just coming off the pitch. So pretty much you're just switching them on to the next game, really. So take Wickham, for example. What did I say after Wickham? I thought we went too deep at times on set pieces because I just think we got caught up in the beast. Razzmatazz. So we dropped, and he ain't a beast. If he thinks he's the strongest footballer, I'm harder than him. That's a challenge. Absolutely stupid challenge on his I just felt, although we played well, this league, honestly, and football, you'll see it up and down the court, it's fine margins, which is the difference 9 times out of 10. And I just felt we just dropped a little bit deep, alright, but I had to give them a pat on the back, so to speak, in terms of the way they performed. We wanted those 10 points desperately, 1 to get to that 50 mark, 2 to get 10 points from 5 to keep us around that playoff position. So it's just important, just to remain positive, and we attack these next 2 away games. So it's not a lot. You don't have to say a lot. And Crew, I didn't have to say anything because it was all coming from the stands. And that situation said, listen boys, that's it. I haven't played, but it was fine. Well, I haven't played, lads. So sometimes saying nothing's the best thing, because look at the response we got after that, 3 clean sheets after that, because they did feel they let you down, they let me down, and themselves, But like we said, going back to the drummer and just everything, the goodwill in this town is an absolute joke. It is frightening. From the office, I love going into the office, but I'll never go in on a Monday when we lose, because Lisa will dupe the look she gives me. So it puts a depressing week. I can't go in the office when we lose. I'm allowed in when we win. And supporters coming in and just seniors coming in and buying tickets. Honestly, this is a special club and nothing will be more fitting for me. I'm desperate when it comes to that new ground to have you in a higher division. We in a higher division. That's the aim. That would be lovely. And that's what we're aspiring to. Because you deserve it. You do, you really do. You deserve it.
I think that deserves a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And at that juncture, we are going to take a short comfort break. The bar is open if you want to get a drink. Obviously, we'll be back in a few more minutes. Thank you.
5 doors locked.
Right, I think Terry's got some questions from the internet. How are you?
Yeah, first one for John. Will fans have a say in naming the new stadium?
Thank you, Terry. It's quite likely that we will find a main sponsor, would want to sell the naming rights. So it's hardly likely that the fans would have a say in that name. But you never know.
Can I just ask then, John, would any of the, would it be open to sort of like stand names or that sort of thing? Would fans and supporters be able to have some sort of say in those sort of things?
I think this day and age you try to have as much sponsored as you can, right even down to bars and the likes, but I'm sure we'll end up with something like the Alan Buckley bar or something of that nature. But I do imagine that the stand naming rights will be sold and also the stadium naming rights.
Will you be investigating safe standing then?
Safe standing is a hot topic at the moment. The EFL are championing our cause. Obviously there's been a lot of fan support for safe standing for a long, long time. There's been a lobby. We've been a big part of that. We want to see safe standing at the new stadium if possible. It is making good progress. I think at Celtic they've got 3,000 safe standing area. That's being closely looked at by government, and it's actually government who need to make this decision because it was an act of parliament that actually brought in all-seater stadiums. It was just the case that we were in the Championship at the time that act was brought in, and we're tarred with that brush, so unfortunately we're stuck with safe standing, and also new stadia is. So, watch this space. It needs an act of parliament to change that, a government decision. And there's every reason to believe it's coming, and I think there's a lot of pressure. And before we build the stadium, I would imagine that there will be something in place. Okay.
Thank you. I think Terry's got some more questions.
Yeah, another one. Marcus has made the point once about the training pitches. Is it just the damp that is the problem, or the wet that's the problem with them?
The training pitches?
Yeah.
You mean in terms of the condition?
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we've had an unprecedented amount of rain. It has been pretty consistent, and also there was a heck of a lot of use early on in the season, which really could have been, if you like, circulated to other facilities in the town. And I think we've done the pitches a lot of harm beginning of the season, to the point where large parts of the pitches are bare mud. Now, obviously, you put water on bare mud, you end up with slop. Where there is grass, it still performs reasonably well. So I think we've done ourselves a whole disservice. We also had a watering regime which was instigated by the previous management regime, that they wanted a fast, slippery pitch. It was Paul's aim and objective, to be honest. And there's no doubt we overwatered the pitches, and effectively, if you overwater pitches, the grass doesn't get its feet in the ground because it doesn't need to go anywhere. It's happy at the surface. So then when you play on it, you tear it up. And unfortunately, we're suffering as a result of some of those bad practices, which really and truly need to be stopped. So hopefully next season we won't experience the same poor surface conditions at this time of the year that we've got now. And what we really need to do is to circulate our activity onto other facilities. And there's a raft of facilities that we can lock into. Naturally we want to ply our trade at our own training ground, but at the same time we have to be pragmatic and sensible about not wrecking it.
Yeah, thank you, John. We heard from Marcus on his view of the decision and after the game, but a fan is asking, John, how did you feel when the referee let that goal go in?
I don't know if anybody noticed, but I vacated my seat and I went in the boardroom. I was sulking. I've kicked the cat. I've actually booked a holiday and I'm going to Dubai tomorrow morning. And I won't be back till the 22nd. That's the effect it had on me. I've never taken a holiday this mid-season, so that's a first. Yeah, I was pretty cheesed off, to say the least. I thought there was some appalling refereeing on the day. Even the penalty, he didn't give the penalty, it took the linesman to give it. I think the whole thing didn't work well. And I'll just enlighten you on another stress of mine. You know, I have a stressy fit over the lights being put on early. Referees like, for some reason, the lights to be on, unnecessarily so in my opinion. There was sun before the game, there was sun at half time, and there was sun at the end of the game. Saturday we're talking about. Beginning of the game, the stadium manager, Nick, always has to see the referee and talk to him about a variety of things. And up pops the lights, the pitch lights, floodlights. The referee said he wanted the floodlights on at half time. Nick said, well, I'll have to consult the directors because, you know, I've got a remit not to put them on unless the light gets to a certain condition. And he has a light meter, which he monitors, and he would use that to dictate whether the lights go on or not. The referee turned around and said, if you don't put the lights on, I won't bring the players out. And furthermore, if you put the lights on and then turn them off, I'll then bring the players off. Now, I think it's gone to a whole new level for a referee to have that impact upon stadium operations. It was a beautiful sunny day, it was absolutely not necessary, and we have taken the matter up with various bodies, EFL and also the referees association side of it, and I think it's just one step too far. We should be able to dictate when lights go on, and it should be dictated by a light meter, because quite frankly, until it becomes dusk, the light doesn't burn through and it has nil impact at all. So, you know, that's the nature of the beast that we had on Saturday. Yeah, I might be in trouble for saying some of the things I've said, but, you know, I'll take that on the chin. I'm always in trouble. No trouble.
Thank you, John. A couple for Marcus now. This is from Richard Young. Have we got a credible replacement for Macca if he's suspended or injured?
Was it?
No, good question. Obviously we had the situation with, we had two very good goalkeepers, and I was probably the most fortunate manager in the league to have Dean Henderson and Macca. Obviously, Jose, after a conversation, recalled him back, left us with Macca. If Macca does, if you've noticed, we haven't had a keeper on the bench, we haven't had Andy Warrington. And I love him to bits, and I think it's been well documented and it's been well publicised, but he's been crap in the reserves when he's played. Yeah. So we've got a couple of outfield players, certainly one who's playing regular at the moment, and certainly one who's on the bench at the moment, who can fill that void. I've never, to be honest, in my previous club, I never used to have a second keeper on the bench. I always went for an outfield because it just gives you that option. Certainly cup games, I wouldn't run the risk. I'd always have a keeper on the bench. But we have got two players in mind, and unfortunately for Andy, he doesn't feature. Not at all.
Do your outfield players have goalkeeper coaching days on Andy?
No. I'm doing Andy a disservice. To be honest, going back to earlier, I'd love more time with the players, and we will get more time next year. But that is certainly, if we're going to go down that route, there certainly comes a time. We're lacking a technical programme at the moment, and we've spoken about the board about introducing a technical programme. And certainly within that is your little 1%, that's your marginal gains, a little 15-20 minutes with Wazza in terms of the two players we've identified, and going and working with him. But valid point, in fact, You'll name my assistant, Mickey. You're good that.
All right, one for John now. One that I guess had to come up was, given the success GTFC have had in utilising loan players this year and the demonstrable failure of the EFL Trophy in every sense, would the manager and the board support the inclusion of Premier League B teams in the competition next year?
Thanks, Terry. I appreciate that one. Yeah. Situation is, it's not going away. I think it's much documented, and I've said an awful lot on this. We originally voted for under 21 players, intended to be young up-and-coming players that needed blood in first team football, and the objective was to help the English game. No sooner than we turned our back, it became public, there was a fan backlash, and the board, in their wisdom, EFL board, decided to accede to pressure from presumably the Premiership to include it to be under 23s and also 5 overage players. That can mean foreign players, it can mean 35 years players, 32-year players, whatever, all sorts of experience that frankly we didn't vote for, and I personally don't believe should be in the competition. I can see the merit in the under 21. I can see the assistance that we can give towards blooding young players that sometimes, if they don't get a chance, they end up drifting out of the game. And I think reasonably being a part of that isn't a big issue. I mean, of course there'll be a fan backlash, I accept that. It never was the Premiership dictating in the first place. I think it was an overzealous EFL board that felt the Premiership would wholeheartedly take part at the, with their under 21s. It turned out not to be the case, and that's where the compromises come from. Once they lit the touch paper, I think they were forced into a bit of a corner. Now, it is still on the chopping block. There's no doubt there's a movement to keep it going. Now, what was the effect for this football club? We were out effectively in the first round. Did we lose to Walsall? Who did we lose to first?
To Walsall, we lost to Sheffield United, and we lost to Leicester.
Yeah. Anyway, the first game we lost. So effectively, that was the end of the competition for us ordinarily. Because of the way the competition is structured, we ended up with 3 games. Were we worse off for it? No, we weren't. We were better off for it. So from a financial point of view, as much as the fans boycotted it, we weren't financially worse off. I hope that whatever comes next season, whatever the format is, that actually we can put the axe to bed. There is an aim and objective to help young players for the benefit of the English game, and hopefully it won't be under 23s, and hopefully it won't have 5 overage players in. This club will be lobbying hard for that to be the case, so that it is doing what was originally intended, blooding young kids, giving them an opportunity to play man's football. If that was the case, I personally would like to see it continue. If it's anything different, we would object. But I've got a feeling, and Philip can speak in a moment, that there's a real movement for it to continue as is. So Philip attended the last meeting in my absence. He was on his own, so he can probably give us a little bit of a flavour of how things are looking. Yes, thanks, Philip.
Thank you, John. First of all, I think it's important to note that the final of the Checkatrade Trophy is between Coventry City and Oxford United. And everyone thought that with the inclusion of under-23 Premier League teams, that the League One and League Two teams wouldn't get anywhere near the final. So I think we're all delighted that the League One teams are both in the final. John's correct, I attended a Football League meeting a couple of weeks ago at which certain information was given. There is a further meeting on the 11th of April at Walsall, which John and I will be attending. At the previous meeting, I asked for certain information, in particular what had been earned by various clubs, or in fact all of the clubs in League One, League Two, what they'd earned out of the competition this season, and a comparison also attendances and a comparison with the previous 3 seasons as well. Once we have that information, and once we know what the format is, whether it is going to be under 21 or under 23, then we'll be in a position to make a decision. I should also point out that the prize money in the Check and Trade Trophy is quite substantial and a lot more than it was under the previous Johnson's Paint Trophy format. So there are financial advantages. For example, winners of games got £20,000 prize money. Well, for a club of our size, that is very important. It also shows the importance of cup competitions, not just the Check and Trade Trophy. Please note Marcus, FA Cup as well next season, please.
So no pressure there.
Just to add on to that financial aspect, the Premier League clubs, they don't need the money. We do. So why should you vote again to include them? They don't need the money.
It's not about money for the Premiership, and they are contributing money, and they're also not taking any of the winnings.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Till the quarter-finals.
Pardon?
Till the quarter-final stage. And I know there hasn't been any that qualified for the quarter-finals, but they were going to take prize money from the quarter-finals onwards.
I can't actually tell you that, but to my understanding, they weren't taking any prize money. It was all going back into the pot. Okay. Well, you've heard our objective. If it's to continue, it would ideally be under 21s, and we will lobby for that. And you can be absolutely sure I do speak my voice very clearly when I'm at meetings of that sort, and make it known our feelings. So your feelings will go back. Our feelings will go back.
Is it not the thin end of the wedge, though, John?
That's an opinion. At the end of the day, the Premiership didn't even ask for this. It was the EFL who were trying to freshen the competition up because clubs were complaining that they were losing money in the early rounds and it wasn't working. So they come up with the idea. It was not the Premiership. If it was the Premiership...
I'm not saying the Premiership, I'm saying the EFL. The EFL will take that money. They will take that money just in order to
TV revenue.
Well, it's not the thin end of the wedge, is it? If it wasn't the Premiership dictating, and it clearly wasn't, otherwise we wouldn't have been struggling to bring in Championship clubs to make the numbers up. They didn't push for it. It was the EFL who pushed for it, and I think fans really need to understand that.
But they will get addicted to that money that they're used to be given by the Premiership, and they will be willing to sell us down the river. Like when you made the decision about the under-21s, and then behind your back, as soon as it's turned, oh, it's under-23s and 5 over-age players and whatever it took to get that Premiership money.
Yeah, I think from my experience, again, at EFL meetings with League 2 clubs and the annual general meeting, the whole game solution, the one that that was put forward by the EFL, is dead and buried. That is finished. If there was to have been a change, it would have needed a 90% approval from the clubs in the Football League. That means only 8 clubs had to vote against any such change and it would be thrown out. I can't see any situation where the clubs themselves, regardless of what the EFL board want to do, the clubs themselves would vote for that. I just think it's a complete non-starter.
Given that it was supposed to help blood young players, wasn't it a disgrace that Luton would fine, was it £15,000 for playing young players?
I agree it was a disgrace. Unfortunately, the rules that were set out, and again this is something we'll be looking at on the 11th of April, the rules that were set out was that League 1 and League 2 teams had to play a certain number of players who played in their previous league game or in their next league game, and therefore weren't able to blood young players, whereas the under-23s were able to do so. But I agree with you entirely. When we were at Luton, when we played Luton, we discussed this with the Luton directors, and they were spitting feathers, I can tell you, about being fined because they wanted to bring on the... And the strange thing is, Luton brought on young players and actually beat, I forget which Premiership, but they beat a Premiership under-23 team, even with their young players. So that made them even more angry that they were fined for doing that.
Can I just ask a question there, please, of the managers? Is it a benefit to our players to play against some of the sort of Premier League under-23 players? or is it a hindrance maybe?
For me, obviously we'll benefit if we're moving forward with the squad we want, and you're working on the numbers based on 22 stroke 22 24 22 players.
Flexible 22. I've found out since I've been involved nearly 20 years now that every manager's 2 players short of a full load, and it's no bloody different.
It's on record, 22 plus 2. It will help us in terms of those players not playing at the time to get much needed game time, but like you said, you still have to field 5 players from the previous league. So, and importantly, the prize money as well. So I can understand the supporters' frustrations, but from a manager's point of view, one, it's really beneficial in terms of from a squad situation, and 2, financially as well.
Yeah, and spotting talent.
Yeah, and spotting talent, John said.
Yeah, but it's a fact, isn't it? You know, look at young Callum we've got.
We spotted him without playing against us.
We
already knew about him.
You know,
No, you're right. No, bless him.
You
No, you know, one of our remits, you spoke, you know, one of ours is 23s and identifying 23 players at yes, and of course, when you go and watch a 23 game, honestly, it's you play, we play, we play, you play, tippy tap, 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 tippy tap, tap, no tackles, no nothing. You actually got no idea of. So to see him in the Checker Trade Trophy up against league teams, you actually see, because there's no tackles made, they're not allowed to tackle head. It's the beautiful softy game. It's, you know, it's really false, isn't it? 23s. So to really spot a player in a 23 game is really difficult. You'll get told about it when you'll see him, but then if you actually go away and go, well, did you see that? Very rarely.
Thank you for that, gentlemen. If I could just mix it a little bit, there's a question here from Stephen Salt, one for Marcus. If the last game of the season is a total dead rubber, will you pick Craig Disley in your side, let him lead the team out and substitute him to allow him to get the fantastic standing ovation from all the town fans who hugely appreciate what he's done? I ask this as it appears that Diz won't be at the club next season. That's not from me.
With regard to Craig, and you know, the situation with him, we've got to respect him in terms of what he's done for this football club, and I think it got misinterpreted, you know, and that's this social media, it's a pain in the backside, where someone tweets a list of players available to be released, and you put these players and they're all in that same bracket, and it was totally not the case. Craig Disley's situation, he's not getting any younger, and the situation we're in, we cannot at this moment in time commit to him for next season. So rightly or wrongly, as a manager, I gave him the opportunity. If he can go and get an 18-month contract right here, right now, because he's got a family, he's got kids, if he can secure his future for another 18 months, you'd go, I believe, certainly with the management and the board's blessing and certainly the supporters' blessing. So that was firmly in Craig's corner. And he got put into this release, which is unacceptable and wasn't right. Craig's massively part and parcel of what we want to do this season, and like you said, hopefully the last game is not a dead rubber. I don't believe in dead rubber games, but the skip will leave on his terms and the supporters will not be disappointed. He will walk out of this when it will be, he will decide, and he'll walk out of this club, and hopefully we show him all the appreciation he deserves, because he's a legend at this football club. Hopefully that answers that.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus. Any more from the floor?
Yeah, right at the back there. Hand was up first.
question's for Marcus. We've all heard good things about Asante, who you brought in, but we don't seem to have seen him play much. Can I ask what your plans are for him?
Yeah, we've obviously I say again. Yeah, John wants the answer to that as well. Keep asking me. Right then, here goes. Obviously, we've been playing two up top. I believe once Omar went, I think we had to go away from the one and play the two up top. On that deadline day, it was a crazy last few hours. I think you all knew I wanted Sam Jones from the beginning of the window. But with Omar leaving, we identified Callum. And then we had a decision. Well, the board had a decision. Obviously, we wanted both of them. It came a time when we went to the board. Well, you know, we'll just take Callum.
Get out of it.
Right. No, we ended up with both. For me, you'll see Quasi, we've signed certain players for longevity. For this, you know, it's not just for the here and now. And I believe the signings we've made, you will see Quasi. When is top secret. Can't tell you that. But at the moment, I do like, it's like anything, it's competition. I do like the way Callum and Sam are performing at the moment. And like anything, it's competition. And Quasi came in, he knew the situation, but listen, I know him inside out, and he's going to be good for us. But it's about the right time for me. But at the moment, the first choice at this moment in time are Sam Jones and Callum. Now you might ask me why.
Why?
There you go, better. Why? Because Sam Jones gives you that, he can get round a deep line midfielder, so he's just not just a centre forward. So if a team are dominating us and we have to change it slightly because they're getting control of the ball and getting, Sam Jones can drop into that deep line midfield and get around him, stop him playing. He can also drift out onto the left to stop a full-back coming. So Sam Jones gives us utility, and I think at the moment we need a presence up there. I think this league kind of pulls towards having a presence up there as well. So Callum's our presence. I think, you know, he's mobile with that as well, which is a plus. So those are the reasons behind it. At this moment in time, why I'm picking those two. But like I said, I played Quasi and Scott Vernon away at Newport, and I may throw that in this week. You know, we've got 3 games in a week, so we will be utilising the squad.
So does that mean it's a work in progression then?
Yeah, like you know, like a lot of the players we brought in, it wasn't just for the here and now. You know, Quaz is a young player, he's only 24. So we believe we've signed players to make sure we become established in this league. This is just my opinion, and you'll have a team and you'll all have opinions. No one's right because it's just an opinion. The squad we inherited was more than good enough to stay in this league. More than good enough. With them losing Omar Bogle with the group we had, I think this group we've got now will enable us to become more established in this league. Because of their age, because of their potential, and what they've got to offer and their utility. We just talked about a young Sam Jones, what he can bring to the table. So I believe with the group we've got now has got more longevity than the group we had. I believe the group we inherited, I think there was a shortfall in midfield in terms of technical. Because I'm looking at the top teams, what have the top teams got? They're all able to keep the ball, they're all technically good midfielders. I just felt we fell a bit short technically. Physically as well in that area. So we addressed the midfield area, and I believe we've addressed some way of going towards the centre forward area, that front area. But like I said, we're not going to replace Omar overnight. And the back, whoever we pick at the moment, at the back, whether it's a Josh Gowling, Sean Pearson, Andrew Boyce, we seem to be, that's where our consistency is, and that seems to be where our strength we inherited, and we've continued that. 14 clean sheets, that's joint with Portsmouth with the most clean sheets in this league. So I believe we've brought in a bit more technicality to the group in midfield. I think there's a few more footballers now. We brought a bit of physicality in there as well, and we brought some options up top. So we're a work in progress. I think, you know, we wanted to address the left-hand side, but we couldn't. But we've got someone who we believe can address that, and hopefully now this is going to be his time to shine. So we'll have the opportunity. So, quite as an individual and as a group, that's kind of where we are and where our thinking is and how we're trying to evolve. So I think we've technically improved in terms of footballers in the middle of the park. I think we've got options now up top, and defensively we've been consistent throughout the season, and that's where and I thought that's where we are at this moment in time.
Can I just ask you then, Marcus, what's the biggest difference for you personally? You've come up into the league from non-league to join us here at Grimsby Town. What are the biggest differences that you've seen from your perspective, not only as in a footballing sense, but in a personal sense, how the football club's run and how it all works around it? I'd like to also ask Mickey that same question, if that's all right.
Okay, the biggest thing for me is probably the media. Where we came from, you don't get the press conference every Thursday. You don't get every word you say. Listen, any word you say gets presented in a way. You know, take Morecambe for example. You know, I called it a horror show. I was talking about the first 5 minutes, but then a headline will be, you know, so they're good. So I'm cracking onto these.
They're right on it, aren't they?
They're right on it. So your words get, you know, headlines. So the media certainly is something I've learned, but I enjoy it. I really do enjoy meeting up with them. So media for me and the fans, you know, we've come from average. Well, we started with 250. By the time we left, it was about 850. You know, these fans, you've got to become thick-skinned. That's my next one. Thick-skinned.
Been there, got that.
The higher you go up, I believe football clubs listen to the minority more. Solihull Moors, not being funny. If someone's not happy, you can hear it. Just man and his dog, basically. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the higher you go up, football clubs, forums, social media, and then they prey on it then, and it becomes, you know, so you'd never go away from the majority, because that's how we run. We're a democratic country, and it's the majority. So as long as I'm keeping the majority happy, and that's what we want to do, and there's always people not going to be happy, so you've got to become more thick-skinned the higher you go up, more thick-skinned, and you've got to be careful around media. But what I've got to say, Grimsby Telegraph, superb. BBC Onside, superb. Dale, you're the best.
Come on, Mickey.
I mean, for me personally, last year, the 3 previous seasons I've been in the Football League at Mansfield, and the big difference between that and here is, I've got to say it's the board, where the board here have the ability to listen. So,
Is that you?
so what I would say is, when you want to target a player, so I'll use Omar Bogle. I presented Omar Bogle to Mansfield board 3 years ago, and they said no. They didn't even listen. Along with lots of other players, where in the window we've just had now, we presented players to the board, and they have the ability to listen. They also have the ability to say no.
Oh, yeah.
But what they will do is listen, and they'll take on board what you want to do, and they'll reflect on it, and then give a reason why. Which for me is quite refreshing. You know, and don't get me wrong, they do have the ability to say no. And on that last day when the Omar thing was going on, me and John had lots of conversations on that night about players, and he will listen to the reasons why you want to sign them, and if you can put a case that is correct and is going to help the club, then he'll take that on board. where at Mansfield at that time it wasn't. They were just like no, 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 and I think that's quite refreshing where the board will listen to you, and they want the best for the football team.
John, can I ask you the same question, please? Obviously, you know, we've had 5 seasons, 6 seasons in non-league. We're back into the football league. What's the biggest difference for you personally?
I'm happy. I can't tell you, obviously, to be relegated into the conference on your watch is dreadful. It's as bad as it gets. I mean, I was carrying a lump for all those years that we were down there, and it's good to be back. And the best thing of it is, you know, we stuck together, we got through it. Yes, it took longer than we wanted. We did give it plenty of good cracks, to be honest. We probably deserved better than we got, and it took longer than it should have. But we're here, we're back in the Football League, and I feel a whole host better, and I'm sure we all do. The downside is we're not winning as many games. Now, that's to be expected. We're playing at a high level, it's more competitive. And, you know, we'll miss those days, dare I say it, to where we used to go away and expect to win. And you know, at home we probably didn't win as often as we should have done because of the Blundell Park hoodoo. But there were some good times as well. But I've got to say, I was trawling a big baggage around for all those years, and I'm delighted it's gone. So the big difference is I'm delighted. And I'm going on holiday tomorrow.
Yeah, Terry?
Yeah, there's another one coming over the YouTube from one of our Norwegian supporters. Do you want, and this is for Marcus and John, do you want to do a pre-season tour abroad? Yes. And will John pay for it?
Well, I wouldn't mind taking the lads where he's going tomorrow. So we can start with the pre-season tour in Dubai. Over to you.
If you get it sponsored, we can do anything. But in truth, we've been to Tenerife, we've done Malmo, we've done various jaunts. But in truth, they've all been sponsored in the past. You know, so if we could work on something of that nature, you basically get a few teams agreeing to play each other, and it's ultimately funded through the attendances. So, you know, if anybody's got any ideas abroad where we could possibly broadly get it self-funded, yeah, of course we'll contribute because it costs us money to run fixtures in this country in any event. Then there's an opportunity to do that, but it's got to fit with the manager's plans and it's got to work for the club in total. No problem at all.
Goodbye to the Isle of Wight.
Have we any more questions from the floor? Yes.
Yeah, question for Marcus. Jamie Osborne was really impressed since signing. How far do you think he can go in a game, and how much of a concern is his Achilles injury?
It's not technically Achilles, it's shin splints. He had it at his previous club, so it's got to be managed. James' talent is a little bit different to the norm. He's a great ball carrier, and he just goes past players like they're not there, so I'm sure supporters enjoy watching him. He can go as far as he wants, and like I said, we don't put a ceiling on it. But he's got to work harder. He's certainly got the talent. He's adjusting to life in a full-time game. But for us, he can go as far as we want to take this club. I can see where we've got aspirations of this football club. I see Jamie Osborne on that journey with it as well.
Hi, when we were in non-league, it seems a distant memory now, doesn't it? But when we were in non-league, all the clubs we visited were very friendly. There were bars where we could share a drink and some banter with the opposing fans. I wonder if there's any of those lessons going to be learnt with the new stadium when it's developed.
At the end of the day, I'm sure some sort of trust arrangement will continue with regard to the bars. There'll be a working arrangement that's carried over. I'm absolutely certain of that because it's working so well here. Obviously, we've got policing issues. You know, we have to be very sensible about when and where we do mixed fans. You know, of course, we know clubs it can work, and then there's certain clubs that it would be wrong to think it could work. I think ultimately, stadium manager's going to dictate how that works. But it would be brilliant to see the camaraderie and you know, genuine fans drinking together. And you know, when I was a boy, we used to change ends and we used to mix. And you know, I remember that fondly. Where did all that go? What a shame. You know, see how rugby performs. You know, they drink on the terraces, let alone behind a curtain. It's a shame that we can't get there, but for one reason or another, it's not in football, and I'm sorry to say it's not likely to come back as quickly as we'd like.
Yeah, we, as a trust, we try and welcome away fans into our bar downstairs when they arrive, if it's before 1:30, and then we transfer them across to the away bar, which we've set up across there. And anybody that hasn't seen that, it really is worth a visit, because we have decorated that with memorabilia from every team that's visited us over the last 6 seasons. It looks really nice there, but it is a difficult one, mixing supporters before a game. I know we did it at Lincoln without a problem 2 or 3 seasons ago, but it is a difficult one for stadium managers to address. Okay.
I think we've got another question on the floor, have we? Yeah.
Derek again. It's just another one about what I'd like to ask you. In the pontoon you've got a lot of young boys, and also you've got a lot of old boys like me. And when we're playing from the pontoon to the away goal, when there's a goal, people like me don't know who's scored the goal, right? And I know you put on the board this end on the screen that a goal, right? And then the guy comes on and he tells us, and he goes, oh, that's all we can hear.
That seems to me,
So what I would like, if possible, can we have it on the screen who scored the goal?
Well, we've got the 2 people here that count. Kevin, can you stop bloody mum? And Rob, can you make sure you spell right, put the right names up? I think we could probably achieve that. Is that right, guys?
Yeah, absolutely right, yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah, we can put the score on the scoreboard, yeah. I appreciate it. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's as difficult sometimes for us to see what's happening at the other end as well, because we're at the pontoon end on the side of it, but yeah, it is sometimes difficult to see in the melee players, so yeah, it'd be a good idea if we can get the name on the scoreboard so that then I can announce it properly. Yeah.
If I'm not on our excuses, you can't have any.
Good question, thank you. Any more questions from the floor? Yes, I'm on my way.
It's cold at the back here. Is the heating not on so you can take the lights on?
You could be right.
Just a question for you, John, really. There's been some criticism in relation to the stewarding and the policing inside the stadium, but I think a lot of people aren't actually aware how much it costs the football club to bring police into the stadium when it's organised, but more importantly, how much it costs the football club to bring the police into the stadium to deal with some spontaneous disorder. And I think people need to be aware of what the implications are financially for the football club if they have to bring the police into the stadium without any particular arrangement.
Yeah, it's a very good point, Alan. Obviously, predetermined police arrangements have a certain cost associated with them. They're scheduled at the beginning of the season generally. We have what's called a charging agreement, which we typically sign up to. I won't go any further than that because Philip's got a debate going on with the police at the moment with regard to the one that we haven't yet signed. because we have some dispute over policing charges, frankly. Putting that to one side, there is a tariff they charge us for organised police events. At the beginning of the season, various games are categorised and then they're held on watch, and that can change effectively, and they have generally 3 categories, A, B and C, and then there's a C plus as well. A C plus can cost in the order of sort of £12,000–15,000, and an A can typically cost you around knocking on £2,500. So there's a whole host of costs associated with policing that's been predetermined. Now, if you get a situation like the Mansfield game, where you had no scheduled police in the ground because we felt it wasn't necessary, and then something kicks off and the police have to come in, there is a much, much bigger hourly charge. It's huge. So Alan's absolutely right. And it's very important for us to attempt to stamp out issues of this nature. Proper fans don't behave in the way that those sorts of supporters did on the day when Mansfield, obviously fell foul of our silky talents. Sometimes things kick off, but a lot of those people just come for it. They're not genuine fans, and we should all do everything in our power to stamp them out, coming to the games. So, I wouldn't feel shy of, for want of a better description, bubbling. Those sorts of fans that come just to cause disruption, and they're certainly within football. They're not fans, they didn't ought to be here, and we should do everything in our power to stamp them out. We're all decent fans here. You should never see a grown bloke, 45, 55 years old, come in for it. Might even have a son with him or whatever, behaving like absolute louts. We've all seen it over the years. They're not genuine fans. They didn't ought to be involved in football. They're coming just for it. In all walks of life, you get it. You obviously go down the seafront on a Friday, Saturday night, and you'll see the same sorts of people looking for it. Sad part of life. There are people like that, and we should do everything in our power to stamp them out of football. It does have a huge cost, and Alan's absolutely right to raise question to it, and also give the distinction between the organised policing costs and then also the spontaneous policing requirements, which cost several times more. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Alan.
Any more questions from the floor? No? Any more questions from the net? Yeah?
Yeah, a couple more. Really going on from that one, John, it's a question that I really know the answer to, but somebody sent this one in anyway. The Osmond stand is enclosed and the pontoon stand open. Do you think it's unbalanced thing, or this unbalances things vocally? Do you think we could address this by moving the away fans into the corner and putting home fans in part of the Osmond stand, which would increase the atmosphere?
No.
I said I know the answer to it, but it's a question that's been sent in.
Thanks for that, Terry. Obviously, segregation is part and parcel of football these days, and we have to be very sensible and practical about it. You might argue we've got one of the best segregation arrangements in most of the divisions we've been in. So from that point of view, it's more sensible to police. But the minute you start mixing, home and away fans in the same location, unfortunately, when that becomes known, you get the sorts that want to attach themselves to football for the wrong reasons, wanting to go in those areas. And it doesn't take many idiots to upset the apple cart. So the stadium manager obviously has to look at these things pragmatically. Yes, we'd love a different roof arrangement on the pontoon. I'm sure it could hold the atmosphere better, and the way end does benefit in that regard. But it's what we've got, and clearly we're looking to move on. Hopefully we'll achieve moving on within 3 to 4 years. That's the plan. The developer believes that they can achieve that. So hopefully that issue will be put to bed once and for all, and we'll get a stadium that's purpose-built, suitable and fit for modern purposes, family facilities, and also that holds the atmosphere in the way you would like it to be.
Yeah, I agree with that, Brother John. It is a difficult one, something that I only did once in 10 years and regretted it very much. Another question for Marcus. How much help is having Mickey and Gary Wilde on the coaching staff? And is, and is there anyone else going to be added to his backroom staff?
I've already upset Andy Warrington. Don't upset Mickey Moore and Gary Wilde, so I'll go on John's comment, none. In terms of adding to the backroom staff, I've spoken to the board and hopefully we can add. Am I allowed to say? I'm just looking to add.
At the moment, we're in deliberations for a sports and conditioning coach. I mean, we have Mickey Moore, we've got Mickey Moore as well as Dave Moore. Dave Moore does do a whole host of that side of things, and he's done it for many years. Football, we're told, has moved on. You know, in terms of strength and conditioning, I would ask how many times does a strength and conditioning coach get 3 points on a Saturday? If you ask some people in the game, they think it's not so important, and other people think it's very important. Obviously, Marcus is pushing for that position. It's in the board's hands, and it's probably something we will subscribe to. But it's in the melting pot. We've of course had this post filled in the past. We've done all the sports science bit. We've had the heart monitors. We've had the food regimes. We've had the nutritional guy, the sports and conditioning. We've had all this in the past, and actually, I personally haven't seen any value for money. I'm assured the guy that Marcus has got in mind will make a difference. So that's been taken to the board, and we discussed that only last week, actually, this week, frankly. And no doubt we'll be making a decision on that come the new season. Okay. So, you've got your answer, half.
Just another one for Marcus. Has Andy Warrington, you've said quite a bit about him this evening, been wearing a radio on match days on the last few weeks? And if so, who's on the other end of it?
Give you a clue.
Yeah, in terms of a match day, what we're trying to do is get every advantage we possibly can and every 1% we possibly can. So on a match day where Marcus and Andy are at the touchline, myself and Gary will be up above. That will give us that extra 1% we feel that we might be able to see something different and can act upon quickly to help the gaffer and Andy. So we will radio and speak then to Andy. He will then pass the messages on to the gaffer, who then can relay the messages then onto the players. So we just feel it gives us that advantage having someone higher up and looking at the game a little bit differently.
I think you can take a lot from rugby, how they do things, and it's quite common in rugby where you get that view up in the stands in terms of shape tactically. There's just no way you can see at ground level. So he's the fullback on the far side. Is he really getting round? Is he in online? You know, winger tucking in. What shape are they? Is he playing a 10 or is he just drifting out? So those advantages. He's so dinosaur sometimes. No, you're not having it. So we do, you know, so it's common, and most teams have it, to be fair. Most teams do it. We're not the first, we're not trying to invent a wheel, trying to be clever. Every single team in this league does it. Every single team has a sports scientist, strength and conditioning coach. It's nothing new, we just want to evolve.
If you do the stats, actually they don't. We'll be one of the few, probably. What was I going to say? When we build the new stadium, we're going to build the dugouts much higher up so that you can get rid of two of your personnel.
And he's not joking. But no, in all joking apart, having your dugouts high is spot on. And, you know, obviously when we're doing the ground, there'll be just those little tweaks. Having your dugout in a high position, spot on. Old Trafford have it. So if it was good enough for Fergie, it's good enough for Big Man.
Any more from the floor?
Yeah, Marcus, do you still think you've got a serious chance of a tilt at the playoffs? Or are you viewing this as an extended pre-season for next year?
No, yeah. No, if we would have picked up the 3 points on Saturday, it would have been 4 points off it. We certainly would have been around it and you in it. Now we can't let, that's just 3 points off. So we've got to find those 3 points over these next 10 games, because the last game is our bonus ball. You know, we call it in the Moneyball system. So over these next 10 games, we've got to claw back those 3 points. And hopefully if we get the points, then you'll start to do the maths and you can do how many wins is needed and what's required. We are at now the business end of the season. You know, Wickham, March, April is the business end, and it's when you actually can do the maths and you can start to see how many points you need. There's teams playing each other, so it will go like that, week in, week out, where you think you're out of it. 2 wins, please, back to back, can change the whole landscape, and something we're striving for, but I believe we should have got 11 points from the last 5 games. Bar that horror show, the first 5 minutes, you know, and then we opened up at the end. That's when they got their chances, where it became a you play, we play game. But in terms of that period, we had the ball, we had the momentum, we were in their half. We just never got into good enough or enough goal scoring opportunities to create chances from it. So realistically, when you speak to the players this morning, could we have got those 11 points? Yes. You know, so if you look at it now, can we claw these 3 points back? Yes. So we're going for it. Please, we're going for it. And Saturday, we're going to put out a team, which hopefully we'll go and win the game. And then we've got the short trip to Portsmouth, where we're stopping. We're going to stop after the game. We play Leighton Orient, and we're stopping over to the Tuesday. Here we go. So it's going to be a challenging week, just regards to travel as well, and the boys being on the coach for how long. I mean, Portsmouth is like 6 hours. So we're all challenging, but we can't wait. We're going to face it head on. We're going to utilise the squad over these next 2 games, and certainly going into Crawley, because if you remember Crawley last time away, we hit 2 superb results that Saturday, Tuesday, and we went to Crawley and we were out on our legs. We never utilised the squad, so we've learnt from that, and it's going to be important. So, quasi a Sunday, mate, play this week.
But does your mindset change though when you realise you can't get in the playoffs when you start looking at the rest of the squad?
Yeah, of course your mindset. Not saying look at it because we've looked at the squad. I would look at then a possibility of, say, a Harry Clifton. You know, if you're looking at, I don't want to think like that because I want to remain absolutely positive. But if it did, you know, you'd be looking at then possibly a youngster who you've got to be that 23rd, 24th man in your squad. I mean, 21, 22 man in your squad. You'd be looking at, you'd choose that then for that type of player. You know what the squad can offer.
Where are we up to with contracts with players for next season? People like Danny Collins, Sean Pearson. Are things progressing down the right lines with players like that?
Do you know something? It would help if everybody just keeps out of it. and there's no pressure. And it's just left. And I'm sure it would be far easier to engage players and get it over the line. For whatever reason, it's more so now than it ever was in the past. It's very, very difficult to negotiate with players mid-season and actually get a common sense arrangement and actually a deal done. So I think you hear where I'm coming from. There is sometimes also, it's a bit delicate and you think it's not the right time to actually talk to the player about it because you're still in the mix, you don't want to upset somebody's mentality. So there's a number of reasons why you do and don't negotiate it mid-season. But I've got to say, more and more it's becoming less successful and more detrimental talking about it mid-season. If you've got a fat wallet and money's no object, then everything's solvable. But we have to balance our books within reason. Yes, of course, majority of the years we lose money, we all know that, but we have to be pragmatic and sensible about it in terms of the numbers of players we have and ultimately how much we pay them. And we've got to get that balance reasonable, and that's what we're looking to strike. So is it right now to engage in discussions with all of the players that's coming out that we want to keep? That's anybody's guess. With certain players it's probably right to do that, and other players it's probably best to leave it to the end of the season. There's more chance of doing the deal on the terms that are right for the club at the end of the season. It's the 6 and 2 3s. You really don't know the answer to it. But as I say, it's becoming more and more difficult to actually do it mid-season. It's agents haven't helped the situation, for a start. Okay. Off you go.
Just give you an insight as well into how we work together on that. We've got a situation, we've still got players who will be here next year. So in terms of our players, you won't see our players until year 3, if a manager gets that enough time, because generally you've inherited a squad, you've signed players, you've still got in year 2 players you've inherited. So really it's only in year 3 you see those players. Coming to the here and now, we've identified the players who we want to keep. We've identified players who we've probably got to leave the door open to, because financially, to take for example in midfield, we won't be looking for no midfielders because we've already got XYZ. We've got still James Berwick on contract, Luke Summerfield and Sean McAllister, and we've brought in Jamie Osborne and we brought in Chris Clements, and Sam Jones is really a deep, an advanced midfielder. So sometimes you're dictated by the group you've got. In other areas, there's 1 or 2 players who spring to mind who we'd probably tie down straight away, but there's another person in his position on a 2-year contract. So do you sign him and then you close the door on that, and because you don't know what comes up in the summer, because you're ever looking to improve. Now, defensively we've done well. Yeah, would you agree? Yeah. I'm going to open it to the floor now, because you're the managers now, I'm the supporter. What could we add to help us better defensively? Give me a dynamic or an ingredient what we could add to help us defensively. Okay, probably missing the point. Centrally, if I told you, centrally, we could go and sign 6'2", 6'3", 4", heads it, kicks it, but runs like the wind. Have we got that player? No. So we haven't got someone who actually can catch pigeons centrally, defensively, have we? So we haven't got that head it, kick it for this league, but also someone sticks it in behind, no problem, I'll just jog, win it, keep the next pass. So if you tie yourself up too much, too early, too soon, we may miss an opportunity to add a dynamic to the group we haven't got at the moment. So we're doing great at that area, but how can we improve it? I would say physically, in terms of adding more pace to the back line centrally. So you see so that's where we looked at midfield. Where did we lack physically in terms of 6 foot plus who can head it and break things up? So that's where we are. There's 1 or 2 we want to nail down straight away, but like you said, probably the worst time. They're playing week in, week out. That's ridiculous money. Well, it will get to a point, if they do, see ya, we won't chase, we'll just replace. That's a great Biggie Small song, Notorious B.I.G. I just had to get that, and this is for the youth that visit. They said if I could get a song in, I want some money for charity. So we don't chase, replace. Biggie Smalls, Notorious B.I.G. I've just won £250 for charity. Prostate cancer. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Marcus.
There was a question over there. I don't forget.
You can ask it if you want, ask your question.
I can't remember it.
I'll give you time to think of it then. There's another one coming from...
sorry, Terry.
From Luke Pawley. In order to bridge the gap between the academy and the first team, are we likely to see the club having an under-21 team in the near future? If so, what are their plans for such a squad and also for improving the academy in years to come?
I think we just heard from Marcus about how tippy-tappy under-21s are. At the end of the day, we have the reserves, and that's, you know, I guess the best place to ply your trade if you're wanting to break into the first team. It is important that we do bridge the gap between the 18 and 23s, and we are looking at how we will do that. Within the staffing arrangement we've got, there's a massive portfolio of staff that are actually connected now to the youth setup, and I've been speaking to Neil about how we might bridge that gap, and of course Marcus has been part of that discussion, and you know, we think we've got a solution in terms of what we want to be able to do is the young pros that get the contracts, the Cliftons, you know, the Vennies and the likes, besides what they do with the first team, we want to find a solution to giving them more time, maybe 2 or 3 days a week, something extra, so that you can imagine that they've been cream of the crop up until they were 16. They've then got a pro contract, and they're not cream of the crop anymore, and they're not getting that one-to-one, that direct stuff, because they're now part of a bigger setup. The manager's focused on his wider players, and they don't get the same attention. So it's a question of how we bridge that gap and how we ultimately get the best out of these youngsters. So that is a debate that's going on in-house. How do we do that? There's a lot of money now being spent on the youth setup, a vast amount of money, and we need to get that the whole thing connected through to the first team with the objective of 3 points on a Saturday.
I have a question from a lady at the back here.
I'm not exactly sure who this is going to be aimed at, but when we do get the new stadium, will there be any plans for ladies football? We've got 2 girls who were talented and played for Leeds United, but the teams round here weren't strong enough, so it'd be nice to know that there were plans for ladies football at Grimsby Town.
I think at the end of the day, the football club would love to encourage that. I speak for myself, as definitely been the case. Naturally, ultimately, it's a board and wider club decision. But yes, we ought to embrace that, like to see it. We will have community pitches, and ultimately, I'm sure there'll be, there'll be a main pitch that can tolerate more usage than Blundell Park does, because it will be a new surface constructed in a different way that takes more stick. So I imagine there is opportunities to have key games where currently we can't do it on Blundell Park. So the answer is yes, we'd like to encourage that. And of course, Marcus has been very much involved in ladies football, haven't you?
No, I'm a big advocate of women's football, and speaking to the community people, Graham and that, it's certainly on the agenda, because we haven't got a women's team. Grimsby Town hasn't got a women's team, so we're looking towards that, and obviously with my background in it as well, I'm very much a supporter of it, because I've seen the game grow, the women's game grow, and I've seen the impact it can have. Certainly my time at Birmingham City and how they've been caught, it's became a family down there, and it wasn't, I went and watched Blues Wigan on Tuesday to watch Omar, and they had the ladies team out on the pitch at half-time advertising their FA Cup game against West Brom. So, massive strides, Birmingham. I'd love to see that replicated here.
Any more from the floor?
Yeah, I'm on the way.
Hi, just on a lighter note, John. Grimsby's famous for its fish, so when we get our new stadium, can we start offering fans home and away our decent fish and chips instead of the rubbish that we serve now?
You can appreciate having outlets all around the ground doing good fish and chips is a really difficult thing to do. I would say that Menemins is first class for fish and chips. We do a carvery and we do fish and chips, and by and large people go for the fish and chips for obvious reasons. We get the fish from Oliver Brothers, it's cracking stuff. You know, we have it in the boardroom as well, so I can speak volumes for the fish. But having it in little outlets all around the ground, in the volumes you need, the quality you need, I think is almost impossible. If you're looking for some of this pre-battered stuff that's, you know, that's cooked in a frying pan quickly, it's still very, very difficult to produce the volumes you need. Because
have a little shop just outside where you can buy it on your way in.
Well, there is a potential to have a fish and chip shop or something of that nature on the outside, but in terms of having it within the stadium, and when you think how little that would be used 24, 25 times a season, it's not pragmatic. The wastage, the oil turnover, that sort of thing, it just is not feasible.
Look at Kidderminster, what they do. Food.
They do with pies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, pies are manageable, aren't they? They're not perishable in the same. I mean, do you want frozen fish? Do you want pre-battered fish? Well, the answer is in Grimsby, no. You know, once you'll sell it all over the country.
You go to watch the football, not like go and have fish and chips and all that, but you go and watch the match, don't you?
Well,
trouble.
We've got to look with them on the bus.
Thank you, Daphne. But yeah, you know, we'd love to support fish and chip outlets all around the ground, within the ground, but it's just not feasible, practical, frankly. And I do come from a fish background.
Are you talking about now, or are you talking about...
No, I'm talking about in a new facility. It's okay having a restaurant like this where you're serving sufficient volume to warrant, you know, the fat, the staff and so on, and the equipment. But if you're going to put that in every outlet, you know, we've got 11 bars in the ground, and you know, 6 or 7 kiosks. When all said and done, you know, manning those all up to serve fish and chips, the fire risks, the hazards, the oil turnover, because you couldn't use the fat the next week, or you know, the next 10 days, you'd have to throw it away. It just isn't feasible. I'd love to say yes, but I think I'd be kidding you.
I think a lot of people would be surprised and disappointed with that answer, to be honest with you.
I'm realistic though. Get them before you go into the game.
It could be a fish
Then
pie.
watch the game.
I can imagine a fish and chip shop somewhere on the facility.
We don't even serve chips in this ground. The food in this ground is quite honest, it's really bad.
It's terrible, unless you eat up here.
It's really bad. I mean, our fish and egg on it, it's fantastic, I must say.
All right, well, listen, we take on board your concerns. Obviously, when we move to a better facility, we will certainly improve our offer. It is difficult at Blundell Park as it stands. You know, we all know the facilities aren't fit for purpose. We need to move on, so if you can please be patient. We will design in the best solutions we can within the realms of what we can do.
On that, are you planning fan consultations as the new ground becomes closer and closer?
Very much so. There'll be, through the planning rounds, there'll be a whole host of consultation, but particularly with the fans in terms of facilities, very much there'll be some, there'll be some engagement for sure. And I'm sure the Trust will peddle that as well.
Have we any more questions? Yeah, I think this will be just about the last one.
Yeah, Marcus, when he was first appointed, he said he was going to move to the area. Is that still the case, and when is it likely to happen?
I have moved to the area, but out of a hotel room, so it wasn't pre-planned how we expected it. Buying, I haven't got enough money. I'm being serious. Renting, so you'd probably be down the rental route, but Humber Royal give me a cracking deal. Anyone watch Home Alone? I'm not this. Anyone watch Home Alone? Great film, and I just seen him living out of a hotel. I was like, one day I just want to experience that. You go, your bed's made, fresh towels. You go downstairs, the food's cooked. You go to train, you come back, your room's tidied. It's like living at home. So I'm living in a hotel and I'm enjoying it. But if I'm here, because they could get rid of me. But I do some lovely villages up here. It's a lovely place to live, and I can see in the future, if I get a bit more money, save a bit more money, or well, we did look. I did find a house tonight. I looked and told you where I was going to look. So I actually found a beautiful house, but I went there and it wasn't as it was. It wasn't right. So I am actively looking, but I am now living in the area. So I'm little. What's his name out of Home Alone? Macaulay. I'm a little Macaulay. I'm messing about, putting firecrackers on people's doors, not doors on. I'm having a great time.
What, would you? Just hang on a minute. Just hang on a minute.
I love it. So I've got no money. I can't buy. I can't rent.
Any more from the floor? No? Over to you, Kev.
Thank you very much. That is about it then, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, sorry, Tom.
If I just close on something?
You please do.
Yeah, thanks, Terry. I think I've been a little bit remiss in my explanation of the moving towards relocation of the community stadium. I think it's absolutely pertinent that we thank the council. They've been extremely cooperative. Yes, it's taken a long time to get to where we've got to because there's been dissent within the council. Not all councillors want us to relocate, particularly to Biggs Parkway. So the council's had to go through all sorts of due process and be very transparent, and it's driven us mad, but at the same time, it's taken a long time, but we've had the cooperation of the council, and the decision that they made last week was a brave decision. Not everybody wants it. I think the majority of the town would want it if we went to a referendum by far, but at the end of the day, the dissenters, those that don't want it, get the biggest voice, and it's them that get in the ears of the councillors. So you can imagine officers, the cabinet, and sort of key members, they've had to put the neck on the chopping block to support that decision last week. I think it's a brave decision, and personally I would like to thank the council for all the work that they've done on this. They've done studies, they've spent money, they've cooperated with the football club in an effort to enable relocation, and we've got that decision last week. Yes, it's been called in, but I do believe on the 21st that will be effectively pushed through, given the nod with the Regeneration Committee. So, you know, from the football club, on behalf of the Board of Directors, we really do thank the council for their brave decision.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Would you keep that applause going, please? It's been a smashing night. John, Marcus, Philip, Hannah, Terry and Christine on the top table this evening. Thank you very much indeed. It's been a lovely insight to see how it all works, and these guys have obviously got a great relationship. Great bands are going on. That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you all again. Yep.
And the most important people at a football club is obviously you, the supporters, and we appreciate everything you're doing and the support you're giving us. So, thank you, supporters.
Thank you very much indeed, ladies and gents. Big thank you to Rob and E-Tech Services for providing all the technical this evening, and thank you to you all for attending. We'll see you all again in a couple of weeks against Crawley Town. Thank you very much.